Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and I do fountain pen, ink, and paper reviews with a focus on the budget end of the market. But sometimes we do go on little journeys into higher echelons of fountain pennery. Is that a word, fountain pennery? And today is one of those days, although it kind of depends on your perspective. From my perspective, and from many of yours, this would be quite an expensive pen. From the perspective of those who sell it and make it, it's considered an entry-level Visconti pen. And I'm talking about their new Mythos pen. And it is a pen with some really interesting features, one of those being it's made by Visconti, it's made in Italy, except for the nib. The nib is made in Germany by Schmidt, and that may actually prove to be a very good switch. So let's look at what I like about this pen, look at the things that I would maybe change, and we'll see how this pen writes. So let's spin that camera and dive on in. When you get your Visconti Mythos, this is the box that it comes in, or actually this would be the glossy sleeve that contains the box that it comes in. And I'm sure that some of you will appreciate the nice little design and pattern there. I'm not a box guy, but I get it, okay? I understand why some of you are. Really nicely done, good packaging, and really it ought to be, right? Then, of course, instead of just plain old styrofoam or bubble wrap, you get the pen pillow, which I guess you could take on your next flight in a very, very small plane. Then you get the pen in the same cellophane that so many other pens come in, and it is a really nice pen. Of course, I should show you, here is the bed. You remove that and you will find the Visconti warranty information and some nice history and marketing of some of the other pens and all of that good stuff, so that you know that you haven't just bought a pen, you've bought something much more. I know it sounds like I'm being smart alecky, but I'm really not. It's a Monday. It happens. Okay? All right. Visconti pen. Now, I've wanted to get another Italian pen for quite some time. I wanted it to be different from what I have had in the past. I have the Leonardo Momento Zero in the blue Hawaii. Is that not just a beautiful pen? And I really enjoy it. I've never shared it on the channel other than size comparisons and background, but I do really enjoy that pen. But I wanted to get something else, and I really have just batted around for a long time. So I saved money and set it aside and pushed it back and never used it and never used it and never used it. This pen came out, and I thought, that's kind of an interesting pen, and I love a brown pen. It gives me an excuse to use my favorite ink color, brown, and I never thought I would like brown. Grew up in the 70s. My image of brown so often was brown Oldsmobiles and Ford LTDs, but in my adulthood, brown has become a color that I kind of appreciate, especially in ink and in this resin. Isn't that really nice? And it has kind of these bronze swirls in it and then some darker swirls. Very, very nice. The closer you look at it, the more you can see. And I'll try to catch some of that here in the camera, but it's a little hard. It has these facets, which are really nice in terms of the design, but they do catch my light above quite well, and that's going to make it hard for you to see. But really, there you go. Really nice variation and swirling in that material, and I think it looks quite good. You have the gold trim, you have the Visconti clip, which springs, you pull it open, put it in your pocket, works well as it should, and of course, it also is that distinctive look that a Visconti pen has, since sometimes that's all that's sticking out, right? Really, really nicely done. Well polished. You can just see the back end of that cap instead of a finial, but there is a Visconti logo down at the end of the barrel, and that too is nicely done. There is also a magnet at this end because the cap is magnetic, as some of their other pens are. So that's very nice. You have the trim band, which says Mythos, and it has, as you can see, that mountain design. Very nice, made in Italy. That all works to make this a nice design. I think it all comes together quite well. And if you look right there, you really can start to see some of that nice coloring. The light hit it just right, just as I was about to transition to the next detail. Doesn't that look good? I like that. Anyway, now that cap, when it snaps on with the magnet, goes into these grooves. So there are 3 of those grooves around the pen, and so it will line up. See, that lines up with the nib, goes right into those grooves. Or, of course, you could turn it and it would line up with the rest. Anyway, strong magnet. That is really secure, not an issue. You notice there's no rattle or anything like that. I've noticed that it's really, really good at fitting on there, staying in place, no issues, no dry out. It's worked well. The only downside on that cap would be it does post, and it posts securely. I haven't had that fall off or anything like that, but there is a little bit of looseness there, but the magnet's holding it in place. That, for some people, will drive you a little crazy. It does also fit into these facets, I think, so that kind of holds it in place, and it holds securely. It's not been an issue. It doesn't come off, but the sound doesn't inspire the confidence that you might like. Other than that, all good. If we take a look down that cap, you see how it fits into those slots. You can also see that trim band, nicely done from the other side as well, and a plastic sleeve that, as I said, seems to be working quite well at preventing dry out. Then we come down toward the grip section. You see that there is this step down curved very nicely there, and perfectly comfortable, not an issue for me. Obviously, mileage may vary, but for me that works really well. Comes to a metal section, and before your metal section, I know. However, you will notice it has a satin finish. And the way that they have finished this metal provides really good grip. And it's not a slippery grip at all. And actually, I think the satin finish looks good as well. It prevents glare when you're doing a review video, which is nice, but it really does provide good grip. You get a repeat of the engraving of the mountain theme at the end of that section, which looks nice as well and keeps you from going too far because you hit that and go, whoop. So that all works very nicely. And then the nib. The nib is an important part of this pen's release because this is not a Visconti nib. Some may see that as a downside. I'm going to see it as a positive. This is a Schmidt nib. Sometimes, you pay a lot of money for a pen and then you get it and it doesn't write all that well, and that's very frustrating. Not the case with this pen. It is branded Visconti. As you can see, it does tell you that this is a medium nib, and it is a nice writing medium nib. There you have that plastic section as you would expect. Then we open the pen up. You can see, I think why I like this brown resin, it reminds me of vintage, like Bakelite and things like that in its appearance. And I just like that kind of a vintage feel to this particular material. I don't know that the others would give you that feel, but this is the Apollo color scheme of the pen, if you're looking that up. Really, really nice. And as you can see, I told you I've been writing with this pen, and hopefully we'll have enough ink to get through the review here. But of course, it does come with a converter, and so bonus points there as always to anybody who provides a converter with their pen. You can buy pens more expensive than this that don't bother, so I appreciate that. Nicely done metal threads, and of course this is the international standard. It takes both long and short. All right, let's do a quick size comparison and then see how this pen writes. And now for our quick size comparison. First we have, of course, the Visconti Mirage Mythos. We have a Jinhao 100, and then a Leonardo Momento Zero in that Hawaii acrylic, and then a Lamy All-Star. And you'll notice even though style is all over the place here, size pretty much a standard across the line there. All right, here are the pens unposted and revealing that James really needs to do some nib cleaning here. All these pens actually are inlined except for the Visconti to be cleaned out again. And then as we post these pens, you'll notice none of these pens are short. That Visconti looks short, but only because these pens are also long. All right, so you know what I'm going to say. It's wonderful if a pen looks great and is well made and all that good stuff, but if that pen can't write, I don't care what's written right there, I don't like it. So the question becomes, how does the Visconti Mirage Mythos write? And the answer is very well. Paper today, by the way, is Ayush. This is a medium by Schmidt. Ink today is Diamine Chocolate. I love this ink. Of course, it is a brown. It looks darker here because this pen writes very, very wet. Let's just show you how wet that is, you see? But isn't that a beautiful brown ink? And this pairing of this pen to this ink, because of its wetness and the smoothness of this medium nib, I think is really nice. Just does such a great job. I think the nib was a great choice on their part. All right, how do I sum up my impressions of the Visconti Mythos or Mirage Mythos? I think this is a really attractive pen. I love that brown material. Of course, you know, resins and acrylics and things like this with a lot of variation. They're kind of my thing. Dark brown, kind of my thing. The pairing with this brown ink, kind of my thing. So, you know, you probably had an idea of what I was going to say. But there was no guarantee I was going to like it. I've seen so many reviews of Visconti pens where they are all or nothing. It's all in, best thing ever, or wow, I can't believe I spent more than a pack of bubble gum on this thing. So, you know, the reviews for different pens are all over the place. Maybe that's because Visconti is, I don't know. Okay, this is a sample of one for me. So take that with a grain of salt and bear that in mind. But this pen, the one I'm holding, is excellent. The Schmidt nib on this pen is fantastic. It is smooth as butter. It is really good wet pen, but wet without problems. I'm not having any issues with the pen whatsoever. No hard starts. It does not starve itself, not at all, and none of the overflow issues either. The pen has been very good and very reliable for me. No dry out. I've left it for days, and it has been fine. Very enjoyable pen. The cap, that magnetic mechanism, well, I love it. It's like a built-in fidget spinner, right? Maybe an expensive fidget spinner, but man, I really like that. And the material is not just pretty, it is a good durable material, and it is well done. I like the design of the pen. I like the facets. I like how that looks. I like the engraving. It's not the most spectacular engraving in the world, I will say that, but I do like it, and I do like the Visconti spring clip. So that, all good. Now, is it worth the premium you pay for a Visconti? That is going to be up to you. I'm pretty cheap. I'm almost, even though I love the pen, I'm probably, you know, my cheapness wants to kick in about every other sentence. I just want to tell you that, okay? But, is the pen well made? Yes. Is it great materials? Yes. Does it do what it's supposed to do? Yes. So, you know, that means that it's going to be up to you as to whether or not it is worth it. My only really nitpick thing would be the looseness of the cap when it's posted. It does hold. The magnet is strong. It functions just fine. I was afraid that looseness would drive me nuts when writing, and most of the time, okay, a little bit of a caveat there, catch it, most of the time it does not, and I don't care. But I probably will continue to write most of the time unposted just for that reason. But in times where I need to be posted, maybe I don't have a place to put the cap that's convenient, it's fine. I can get by. I probably wouldn't do it for a long time posted, but that's the only dent I'm really going to give it when it comes to the function of the pen. Everything else has just worked as it should. All right, tell me what you think about this pen. Lots of unique features and design to it within the Visconti design language. It's all very interesting to me, and a great writer, but I would like to know, what do you think? What have been your experience, if you have any, with Visconti pens? And there are only 3 colors to choose in this particular pen, nowhere near the variety of the last pen, the Abhimanyu, that I shared. What color would you pick if you were picking a Visconti Mythos? All right, God bless you. Have a great week.